All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are here for episode 2 of the Primal podcast, and it is, of course, MLP Dota and Gen X Fire. John, I've got to ask you, sir. I can't help myself. How do you feel?
I'm feeling great. We had a couple of good days of casting. There's been a lot of news while we were asleep, especially
Mm.
with regards to Valve. Like they've got a surprising set of announcements at the very least for a certain game that I think a
Oh.
lot of people have forgotten about. But it's been good. Yeah, I had a lovely morning. I had a lovely time yesterday. It's been fun casting again. It's been fun having that back. At the very least, we're starting to pick up pace there.
We are. We're finally back into it, so the momentum feels good. And we are going to talk about the revival of a certain game very soon. I'd say a bit later on, because we like to talk about this game a lot, and we have a lot of opinions about this game. So we want to take our time. We want to enjoy ourselves. We want to take it slow. We're going to caress the topic of this game. However, for now, I'd like to start with our first talking point, really. The current influx of online tournaments, which is, I think it's a great thing. Obviously, fantastic for us. Because, I mean, you've done a LAN, I've done a LAN. We've both done one so far.
Mm,
We did have another one lined up. We talked about it the last podcast. WESG was meant to run in Macau and initially Malaysia. Didn't pan
mm.
out. COVID-19
Yeah.
happened. Everyone got screwed over. Everybody. However, plenty of online tournaments coming. To give you some examples, we just did ESL 1 LA online.
Hmm.
As you would know, it was just yesterday. I hope your memory isn't that bad, John. We had the We Save charity. We talked about that last week. Fantastic initiative from WePlay. Great to see them in the scene, to be honest. Like, this is the kind of tournament organizers we want to have.
Mm, definitely.
DPL from MDO recently got announced. We'll be involved in the playoffs of that
Oh.
later on this month. Yes, big announcement with BTS, so that should be fun. Even the Oceanic League, and this hasn't been announced, so maybe I shouldn't be talking about it. But screw it, it's free advertising for the however many viewers we have, I guess. We are doing an Oceanic League based in Australia. And Jonathan, you've always wanted to be Australian, and you're finally going to get your chance to impress the Australian public by getting
Oh god.
involved. But I suppose the reason I bring all this up is really, is it too many that's going on? And this is going to be a really weird question to start us off. Is there enough online tournaments, or is it too many? Like, is there too much content?
It's hard, right? Like this reminds me of the time when Dota 2 was a bit newer. Like say back in 2012, 2013, you had a lot of online tournaments. You had the ticket system from Valve as well, right? Where third-party tournaments could post a ticket online on the Dota 2 client so you could watch in game. You could tie that in with your own custom battle pass as well at some point. And it reminds me of that time where you had a lot of tournaments going on. I think right now we're in a pretty okay spot. You can see that issues of scheduling are popping up in certain regions. I think China is definitely one of the places with a lot of tournaments going on. They had two online leagues, like the Chinese the CDA and another tournament, and you had ESL one running at the same time. So you had some scheduling conflicts that did arise from that, but I think overall this is pretty darn good for the viewer.
Hmm.
Like for the viewers, there's always going to be a lot of matches going on. There's always going to be possibly one of your favorite teams playing at any given time. I think for long-term viewer engagement, there has to be a certain point where saturation is gonna dwindle the impact of these games. We saw that before as well in that same period where Dota 2 had a lot of online leagues. There was a point of complete saturation where your average viewer, not the hardcore ones, but your average viewer would feel like there were no stakes for some reason, or if it felt like it was a bit too rehashed. There's only so much you can expect your team to change up in a span of days, given like 10 matches in a week, right? There's only so much that can shift out from those matchups. So I think there is going to be a point of saturation. Right now, we're in a pretty good spot. I think as long as tournaments space out their scheduling, ensure there are no conflicts, we'll have a pretty good time for the next few months.
And that was the thing, right? You mentioned it just a few seconds ago, but With China specifically, the CDA, the Chinese Dota Association, that recently got brought up, did conflict a lot with ESL LA, and we were casting the Chinese region for ESL. And I know specifically from some other casters that were involved in some games, there was one stage, I believe it was Gareth, was waiting 3 hours from the scheduled time that it was meant to start. He was waiting 3 hours. Another one, I believe, the Swordfish, another fantastic caster in my opinion. Uh, he was also waiting a very, very long time for his game to start, which is all perfectly fine. I respect the this new association that these teams have come up with. I think it's great for their scene. It's going to really help them in terms of getting more practice in, learning the meta faster, and more money into the scene never hurts. It's always a
Mm.
good thing, right? But it does. I did think about this when we were casting ESO, and I'm like, well, hold on a minute. They're running late for our games, and they're also running late for their games in the Dota Association in China. Yesterday, for example, we were casting Vici versus Newbie. They
Mm.
were running late for their next matchup where they were versing each other in the Chinese Dota Association. So they went from versing each other in one best of three to versing another or versing themselves again in another best of three, which they ran late for, by the way. And it kind of, to me, it's like I don't want to say it's too many. I love the fact that there's so much
Mm.
Dota going on. This is great, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like, well, is it great? For now, I think it's okay. I think,
Yeah.
but I agree with your point, right? They need to space things out. They need to communicate, these guys. Like,
Yeah.
TOs can't just keep bringing up tournaments out of nowhere with 2 days' notice and saying, hey, we're doing this. It's like, well, hold on a minute. I was going to do the same thing at that time. You've got to let's
Yeah.
have a bit of communication, I think. And another question on top of that, John, with all this competition against each other, really, and again, I'm not really in tune with how this side of things work with TOs, but is it financially feasible? Are they profiting at all? Because that's important. It's a business.
Mm. I think they are. I
Right.
think the key thing is viewership has been steady. I think overall, sure, you're not getting the massive viewership you'd get with a tournament. You're not getting the overhead of a live tournament as well. You're not paying rent. You're not paying massive staff to maintain. You're not paying deposits, security deposits, or whatever else goes into the logistics of renting a large venue, hiring staff, running live production. What tournament organizers are doing now are perhaps paying one big studio to run their main line. We're seeing this with ESL, and this is mainly focusing on ESL and how their production's going. You get guys in a studio that can work for remote coverage still, but you've got studio coverage. So you have a
Mm,
live setup, you've got proper production, you've got all that jazz going on for mainline games, right? Or whatever you define to be your main game. And then other regions that run concurrent that the mainstream can't handle, they have been outsourcing to, other casters like us. And I think overall, you're paying much less in overhead. So that's one thing. You are getting a bit more in ad revenue overall, split out across regions. I think viewership has been holding steady, and I think they can recuperate some operational costs from that. Whether or not that's completely covering it all, it's a different question.
right.
But I think they have done adjustments as well to compensate. Like the prize pool is not as big, so it's
Mm.
it's definitely not major grade prize pool now. But I think that's overall fine. I think you have to temper your expectations when you are running online leagues. And the fact that we're running these sort of online leagues is interesting. This feels like a test run for the next season of DPC because they announced tier 2 leagues, they announced a tier 1 leagues. This definitely feels like a taste of what the tier 1 leagues would be like in implementation. Not quite. Like, the formats probably
Mm.
not there. I don't think they're going to be doing round robin best of threes for tier 1. I think we're going to see a more traditional group stage with a wider pool of teams per region. But this is definitely like it feels like they have turned this into a bit of proof of concept towards Valve for any of those proposals that we could see in 2021.
I agree.
2020.
I agree. I think this is a good test run. As bad as the reasoning behind it is, as bad as the reason why we're doing this is, and you'd rather not have a pandemic going on in the world. It's still a great time to test. And well, I think it's working out okay. I think our main point, if anything, is they probably need to communicate a bit more. And I understand it's your competition. You don't necessarily want to have to communicate about your dates and stuff. It's more private information. You are somewhat competing, right? Because these are businesses, and people tend to forget they're businesses. Businesses are made to make money, as well
Yeah,
as put on
of
a
course.
show, right?
Yeah.
But I think we can both agree. I think it's a good thing. Personally, we haven't run into too many issues. I just get a little concerned that if this keeps up and leagues just come up a day before they're meant to go live, it does
Oh man.
create complications. Like yesterday, where another thing was there's been a lot of games that are being rescheduled,
Mm.
and we know that very well because we were meant to be casting today and tomorrow,
Mm.
and now that won't be the case because there is other games going on in other tournaments, and you've got to for teams they just choose their best option because that's just
Yeah.
the logical way to go for them. Who cares what TOs think and crap like that? It's a team. It's a business for them as well. It only makes sense. And I suppose to kind of round off this topic, one other question, and you may not have too many answers to this. I've been keeping
Mm.
an eye on other esports. How are other esports coping, in your opinion? Have you seen any other games and esports scenes coping better than us, coping worse, perhaps the same?
I think this doesn't change too much in other esports. I think unless they had a bunch of interrupted tournaments as well, the transition to online should be easier. For example, I don't believe League is going to be hurt as much because they already have a pretty healthy online system, right? For relegation, for League games, of course, you'd rather be able to run your live production. You'd rather hold those finals live per region. But I don't. I think overall, a franchise system like, for example, League of Legends, going to be affected too much. I'm not sure about Overwatch and stuff like that. Like, I really don't follow. I initially
Hmm.
did out of interest of the
Who
environment,
does?
but the game itself was just, the game
Terrible.
itself was. Yeah,
Just say how
I
it is. It's
regret that purchase.
garbage. It's a
Yeah,
garbage
I
game.
regret that purchase. Like, the reason I played Overwatch, even a bit of a segue. Like, I had a friend buy me a copy of PUBG, and we had lots of fun. He's like, "Hey, you should play Overwatch too." I was like, "Okay." He got me PUBG. I'll buy Overwatch to play with him. Terrible, terrible, terrible decision. But I think one thing that's funny is, and it's funny this topic came up. I think it's more interesting to see how traditional sports are coping. You take a look at F1, and they've declared that replacing the races they've missed out on. What did they miss? I think they missed the Australian GP, didn't they? They
I
had to cancel
believe
out.
so. I believe
So yeah,
so.
they had to cancel out the races in Australia, Vietnam, a whole bunch
Hmm.
just off the table. And the F1 announced that they'd replace that with online races, which for me was kind of hilarious, for one. And for another, it's actually quite interesting to see these pro players play online. And I haven't really followed it too hard because the main thing I do with F1 is follow the meme. Like I don't follow the races, I follow the F1 memes because they're hilarious.
Yeah.
Even without context, you know what's happening with Lewis Hamilton and stuff. Still, I found it interesting that the main point brought up with that wasn't complaints from players or viewers. The complaints were from broadcasters, and specifically something about threats from sponsors potentially pulling out from failed commitments. I think that's a tricky point to make for traditional sports. Like, this is something out of their control. At the very least, F1 can compensate. You look at something like the NBA, a lot of their players have COVID-19, right? A lot of
Yeah.
their players have been confirmed to have that, and they were considering playing those games without audiences, like Japan was doing with a few of their baseball games for a while before it went full panic. I don't know if that's feasible now with the state of how physical those games are. I think you really just can't push it.
You can't.
So yeah, and obviously, NBA on the video game format of that's just not quite the same. At the very least, with F1, you can have sims or
Mm.
very close to sims, and the experience, yeah, it's not quite there, but it's an interesting diversion or filler while the downtime's there.
Well, two
And
things.
yeah,
If I may cut in, two things. I did see a bit of that F1
oh
simulation
yeah,
going on. The
yeah,
reason I saw that was one of the Dota hosts, Red Eye, was actually racing in there. He was part
oh,
of it. Yeah, he was.
oh,
He was actually involved. He was tweeting about it. He even said it was a dream of his to be involved in the Formula One. He's a big fan.
Mm.
If you don't follow Red Eye, you should. But he's a huge fan of the F1. It's probably his favorite sport, apart from
Oh, okay.
esports. Uh,
Okay.
from what I can gather, because he does tweet it about it a lot, and he was involved. He was racing. I believe he came eighth, if I remember correctly. Which, considering
That's not bad.
considering he's not a professional player,
Yeah.
it's pretty good. I think.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
That is.
and another thing, you mentioned NBA.
Mm.
They actually announced just before we went live. I saw a tweet from them.
Oh,
They are actually gonna do an online league for NBA 2K now. So,
NBA 2K.
well,
Oh,
whichever one it is, the popular new one, whatever it is. I don't play those games personally, but they
yeah.
have announced that because they can't do the actual league, the actual physical league, they're gonna replace it with esports, and I can't believe the day would ever come where this would happen. But from what they were tweeting about, they're gonna have the league going on with professional players, and those players are either gonna be led or they're gonna have involvement from actual NBA players. So
Okay.
so either the NBA players are gonna get involved and play the game, or they're just going to captain the team and just lead be the leader of the team, maybe the coach or something. But yeah, I mean, I don't watch NBA 2K esports or whatever it is personally. I know there's
Mm.
some games that go on here and there. I've never watched it.
Mm.
It just doesn't really inspire me, but I'm excited for them. I think it's a great idea, and
Oh yeah.
more eyes coming into esports. Never, I mean, a lot of people have been tweeting out online saying, "Hey, I've never watched esports, but this shit's pretty cool. Like this is
Yeah.
actually pretty entertaining."
Yeah, I do like the potential for new audiences. I think this cross with traditional sports is the injection that esports needs in particular. Sure, people are going to be starting out watching perhaps F1, perhaps racing games, perhaps something like NBA, as you mentioned. But this will lead to a bit of a trickle down effect, even though it's maybe not much, but it's a good way of initiating these people to the culture, the subculture, of video games as a sport, as a professional activity. And I think that's just good to have overall. It's interesting though, like again, games like the NBA don't necessarily translate from real life skills to the video game. It's a very different input system. I think the only sports I see really benefiting is probably racing sports. So again,
Mm.
F1, something like NASCAR, going on Real Drive. I forget what Real Racing is, the sim racer, which is it has hilarious physics when it goes wrong. But I,
Yeah.
I think those are going to be the ones to watch out for if you're really interested. I think that's the one where I aren't F1 pros actually racing in that league? They are, right? Like they've got
Ah,
setups.
I don't know if it's the actual pros that drive the vehicles or whether it's the gaming pro. I didn't go that far. Maybe it was because as I said, Red Eye was super excited. So
Yeah.
maybe it was actual pros, and good on him. I'm very happy for the man because it's probably a childhood dream of his to be involved.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's always good to accomplish those. Just when a tragedy like the pandemic is going on, it's always nice to see little glimmers of hope like that, like
Yeah.
little surprises,
Sure.
little gifts from life.
For
Um,
sure.
apart from that, John, uh, I want to move on to a bit more of a morbid topic. And by the way, before we do that, hello to Nick, Mad Dog Muzzer. He's joined the chat. Of course, Marquis, I believe, is there as well. Is that
Yep.
Marquis? Yep,
Yeah, that
Marquis.
is.
Good to see you, sir. Um, it was F1 Pros, by the way. He has confirmed.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Marquis.
Awesome. Yeah.
Um, the next topic, it's a bit more of a morbid one. Not really morbid. I think morbid's the wrong word. A bit sad of a
Uh-huh.
topic. I want to talk about LAN talent, T1 talent
Oh,
in Dota.
yeah.
And we'll keep it short because this is their personal incomes and their lives. We don't want to diverge too much into it. We don't know much about their lives, obviously, right?
Mhm.
But I do feel bad for these guys, the tier one talent. Like they really rely on these LAN events to make a living. A lot of them, that's their full time job. We would know the feeling, John. That's our full time job, except we just do it remote for now. We haven't
Oh, yeah.
quite made it to that level yet. But I can only imagine how things are going for them. It's quite a dire situation. From what I can tell, most of them have stayed very optimistic. And I commend them on that, honestly, because I don't think I'd be the same if I was in that
Mm.
situation. These people do have families, they have girlfriends. Toby One, for example, just had a child, and a big
Mm.
congratulations to him. I don't know if you saw John, but he had a
Yeah.
beautiful baby girl. Congratulations to him and his fiance on that. What do they do? Like, their job's on hold. What do you do if you're a T1 talent right now?
I think it's rough. I think this mainly it's gonna hit people who aren't casters the most. So we're talking about observers. I think people like Wepes, people like
Hmm.
Pimp Muckle might be hurt a bit more because remote productions don't necessarily need obs. Although bigger studios, if they are on location, then they would have an obs. Like say again, BTS doing ESL 1 on the mainstream. I believe they do have a dedicated obs because they're on a couch, right? They're not touching the mouse themselves. But these kinds of talents that mainly rely on a stage presence, like Red Eye, I think is going to be hurt by a bit more Shiver. I mean, she cast and but people like that don't happen to be in a studio right now are going to be experiencing much less income, and that's going to be rough. I think the only way you can really compensate is by seeing if you can slide into an online production. I'm sure the bigger casters can easily do that, or some of them can just use it like a sabbatical. But this is definitely going to impact the short term. I
Mm,
think long term they are likely to still see these jobs come back. Like the tournaments will be held at a later date, and I'm sure these talent will be tapped in. They're the top talent. It's just going to be hard in the short term, and just maybe a bit of penny pinching, maybe lessening your expectations is in order. But I don't think they're going to be you know, in rough spot. I think this actually really hurts, like not tier one, tier two talent or lesser tier talent that do show up for lives, but
right.
not too often. And I know a couple. I know one personally very very well that is impacted hard, and I think it's gonna be rough, like because you still do a lot of online at that point,
Right.
but you are kind of
Oh,
oh, looks like a
yeah,
drop, but you are kind of looking at those lives is a big part of your income at that point, and I think that point is pretty rough to be in.
it is. I can only imagine. Again, we're not T1 talent. We're trying to get there, obviously. And, it's a weird situation because in theory, and we can be open and honest about this because this is just the truth. You know, we are competing in a sense. We're trying to reach that level. In a
Mm.
sense, they are as much as I admire and respect those people, they are competition for people like us that are trying to break into that T1 scene. But you can feel for them, man. Like it's
Oh
uh,
yeah, of course.
Oh, sorry. You've got to mute your
Oh
grid
yeah,
fam, please.
yeah, yeah. My
Unless
bad, my
people
bad.
want to hear double the John, which I don't mind hearing double John. But
I'd rather not.
regardless, though, we'll keep it at that. Again, I'm thinking about these guys. I hope. I really hope this is over sooner rather than later.
Oh yeah.
So I can only imagine. I can't relate. We don't go to enough lands to know what it feels like to be in that situation. But maybe one day we will, John. Maybe. You know. Nevertheless, let's go into a bit of a brighter, or perhaps a brighter topic, depending on how you feel, John, because I know you get
Mm.
very passionate about this. I want to talk about the current state of Dota.
Okay.
Okay? Currently, and you corrected me on this, I said there was a growth in player numbers over the last 2 months.
Mm.
You corrected me before the podcast started and said no, it's not a growth. It's simply returning players. That is not
Yeah.
growth. That is what would you call it? What's the word you wanted to use?
I'd say
Like retaining? Is retaining a better
no.
word?
I think returning players is a good word for it. I
Okay.
think if you look at the graphs for Dota 2, January 2020 or December 2019, I remember articles coming out. That was the lowest point of Dota 2 since what, 2015 or
Mm,
2013?
it was
Some
bad.
time ago. It was a rough spot, like lowest amount of players. You had no fresh patch. We were in 7.24 for a long time, and 7.25 came out. I don't think 7.25 itself would track players. It wasn't a major change on the map. It wasn't a major change on heroes. We didn't see any new additions. no major shift beyond. I'd say the biggest impact is the change to AoE gold. But I think the rise in players now for Dota 2 is just players who used to play before but got busy with life, got busy with work, got busy with other interests, are coming back because maybe they don't have work right now. Maybe they
Right.
can't do their interest. If they loved hiking, they can't go out hiking now. So they go dip back into Dota 2, and I think it's great. Like, look, more numbers is always better. I think there still is an underlying issue with the actual player base of Dota 2. And this is a pattern that happens yearly. Usually this happens around TI, where you get returning players and maybe a few thousand new players who see, oh, that's a huge prize pool, that's a big event. What's
Hmm.
Dota 2 all about? And they come back in because TI is the biggest advertising Dota 2 has in the year. That's it. That's our big ad, TI. And that's when you get actual new players in. And I think it's good that the player base is here. It's back. It's returned. I'm interested to see if that will stay after the state of pandemic. Like after this entire lockdown around the
Mm.
world is relieved and life starts to get back to normal. If we'll still see these players retained in, I think the current state of the game with meta as it is, it's fairly, it's all right. I think it's in a pretty decent spot. A lot of heroes are viable. I think the comforts that supports had before have been taken away because you really did have support centric patches the past few two patches. I
Yeah.
want to say have been very support centric since the introduction of neutral drops. I think it's been all helping the supports, and you actually rolled back on a couple of that. TP scrolls are back up in price. You get less AoE gold as well, so the trickle down gold effect is not there. You really have to dedicate some time to finding space for yourself as a greedy pos 4 or pos 5, and this will kind of make that role mildly less attractive to anyone else. Like I'm sure there are a couple of people who'll be like, "Yeah, I'm not playing support again."
Well, luckily for us, John, I've taken the initiative here and I've put a tweet out with a poll. And I asked people a very simple question about 4 hours ago. I'm not sure if you saw it. I simply asked, are you enjoying this current meta of Dota 2? That's all I asked. Answers or potential answers were, I like this meta, I dislike this meta, and I don't play anymore. Simple as that. Figures have come in. 14 people have voted. Obviously not the highest amount of people. Unfortunately, I only gave them 4 hours, so you can only expect so much. 50% of the people who did vote in the poll said they love the meta. They do enjoy the current way the game is right now. 14.3% said they did not like this meta, and 35.7% said they do not play Dota 2 any longer. So, according to half the people, and again, it's not really a large amount of people that have voted, but it seems that people are kind of liking the general direction that Dota has gone in this meta. And if I may personally comment on the meta, I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think I I could make the argument that neutral drops are still a bit weird. I can't say the hugest fan of neutral drops, but I think they've balanced them out to a point where they're useful but not they're impactful but not crazy. They're not insane anymore. In terms of the actual meta, the heroes that are popping up, it's finally shifted a little bit. You know,
Mm.
I swear for at least 2 years now, we've been seeing Morphling Peel, Gyrocopter for some reason pops out. That's been going on for like 5 years. Io's always been popular. Chen's always been like it's just been the same stuff over and over again, and it feels like we're finally at the point where we're gonna see all those heroes that were kind of forgotten about starting to pop out. For example, we casted a game yesterday,
Mm.
the Core Dazzle. We doubted it.
Yeah.
Newbie showed us how to make it work, right? Because we've seen teams that they just can't run it.
Mm.
Newbie showed us how it's done. We see the Lycan popping out again. And a lot of people have a lot to say about the Lycan. One of my personal favorites, John. 70% win rate
Oh
on
yeah.
the Lycan over time. I was ahead of the curve, by the way. The things they're doing now, I was doing 10 years ago. I
Oh
knew this
yeah. Oh
stuff,
yeah.
right?
Oh sure. Oh
Uh,
sure, buddy.
even Marquis pointing out in the chat, Wraith King, he's back in a kind of OP manner, I've got to say. He's kind of ridiculous right now.
Oh yeah.
But all I'm saying is, I think this is what we need. I think this is the perfect timing with with people having to stay at home, and we finally got a meta that is different. Like, it's not pure morphling every game anymore. You know,
Mm.
it just feels good. And John, I know you haven't tested it out too much yourself. You personally, I think you've been on Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah,
Uh, you've been spending some time on other VR games.
yeah,
Uh, but you have watched a lot of Dota, to be fair. So you
yeah,
have
yeah,
seen. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, I think it's in a good spot now, but I would like to hear your opinion. Do you think it's stale, or do you think they're going in the right direction now?
I feel like this patch is a correction of the issues 7.24 had. I think the emphasis on Maelstrom is really good. So
Mm,
this allows other heroes to shine. I think there has been good variety in heroes overall throughout the past 2 years. Like there were a couple of holdouts. Gyrocopter is the biggest one in mind. Naga Siren in different roles is another one that has been staying a bit too long. Lifestealer has been very solid for the past 2 years on and off, but that has been there. I think Morphling hasn't stuck around as long as we'd expect. Like it has been there since last year, since a year and a half, but it's not one of the longer holdouts. And in fact, for a long time, Morphling was pretty meh beforehand. So I think him staying so long wasn't too big of an issue, although it was a pretty dominant time where Morphling was just
oh,
always there.
tell me
I
about it.
think I think the state of the game, my biggest issue personally, and why I don't play as much is you give so much. Again, this is mainly from a support player's point of view. You gave so much to supports last time, you take it away. It's hard to readjust to that kind of semi-poverty life. I mean, it's still very perfectly playable. I'm not complaining. Like compared to the state of supports in I don't know 6.83 up against sniper and stuff like that. Of course, it's a better time.
Right.
But when you kind of simplify that and then take it away, like TP scrolls are really expensive, which does hurt supports a bit, but it's whatever. It's it's a strange prospect. I think the issue I have overall is that certain supports are still way out of like they have not been balanced. I think that's one area where the game has not really moved on. You see it shift in safe laners. You see a shift, especially in the off lane. I think that's the one where a lot of shifts happen. Like a lot of different heroes have been popping in and out. You used to have a
True.
lot of Doom. Now that's gone. You used to have a lot of Axe, and that kind of tapered off as well. Underlord's still kind of stable and all of that stuff. But supports have been steady. Like
Mm.
the most common ones, Ancient Apparition, Tiny, still makes pop-ups, although very recently in our games, not quite. Snapfire used to be very popular. That's not there. Lich is still a very popular holdout, even though success rate has been pretty abysmal.
Dwindling,
And
yeah.
of course the Rubik and all of those. But I feel like the pool of supports has shrunk. Like there is a very
It's limited.
limited pool of supports compared to every other role. Like you have the flexibility of certain offlaners as supports now. You
Mm.
always used to have that, but I don't think that makes up for the fact that a lot of supports just aren't working out well. Like the most traditional support, Lion. He's the most straightforward support you could ask for that has a high ceiling, and he's just garbage. Like they keep trying to buff Finger, and it's scaling. It's just not. That's not his issue. And it's stuff like that. The Lion's kind of gone. Shadow Shaman, a couple of teams pick it up, but I don't think it's been as impactful as you'd expect. The wards just don't do as much as you'd expect nowadays. And his presence in lane is debatable depending on his laning partner. And for a lot of times, you don't actually see laning partners maximizing that Shadow Shaman for the most part. So I think the biggest issue with the state of Dota 2 for a while is just the variety of supports. Maybe I'm just watching too many pro games, but I personally feel it when I play every now and again as well. Like the supports I do like personally don't work out, and that just detracts from my own personal enjoyment. But I can say that Dota 2 is in pretty good state. I
Okay.
just personally for playing it, not quite. Like my support pool. I mean, my pool is gone, so I'm just not gonna have fun.
Yeah. No, I mean, your pool's basically, you like to play POS 5. For
Oh
anyone
yeah,
that doesn't know,
pause five, pause
John,
six.
yeah, POS 6, yeah, yeah, the classic. You like playing Lion, you like playing Under, you like playing very sacrificial
Oh
supports.
yeah,
Undying, of course, dead in the water now. Undying's gone.
absolutely.
Has
Been
been
dead for
gone
you.
for a long time. Lion, like you said, I mean, Lion, it's the man. I swear, it's the spell animations. It's just such a clunky hero to play. Like it just doesn't feel good when you cast anything. I don't feel like I should miss Earth Spike as much as I do with this hero. but it
Mm.
just misses a lot. Uh, Hex is fine. Hex is pretty instantaneous.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, Hex is instantaneous.
Mana Drain, it's okay, but it's kind of
Yeah,
like
I think that's the gist of it, right? Like, it's okay. Like,
yeah,
he has a great stun. Hex and Impale are great. Mana Drain, Mana Sustain is really not something any support should worry about that much. You buy a couple of Clarities, that's it. So he has one spell that's dead in the water. You have one stun for that holds someone for a pretty okay amount of time at level 1, and Impale it's pretty decent nuking. It's just that you have other heroes that pump out more damage, has longer durations on slows or control. Then line's really just kind of washed up.
regardless of that, John, we'll move out. We'll move on from the our personal views on the supports. Personally, I'm having a great time,
Hmm.
but that
I
is
can see
because
why.
my supports are back. Right, Earth Spirit's amazing right now. Clockwork's amazing right now as well. It hasn't gone anywhere, and I've been just destroying people with Clock and Earth Spirit. Let me tell you, John. And not to mention, with the TP being more expensive again, I personally love it because
Oh yeah, 'cause-
I'm one of those pos 4 mains. I love roaming the map. I will TP if it's necessary, obviously, to make a quick rotation, save my core's life or whatever else. But I enjoy roaming between lanes, picking up kills, and either sticking around in one lane and waiting for those poor bastards to TP back in so I can send them back to where they came from, or, just rotating to another lane. I like buying smokes. I like to, I'm a pos 4 player. I'm a sicko, John. I enjoy seeing the
hmm.
world burn, right?
Hmm.
But regardless of that, we were talking about the player base numbers. They have been going up. A lot of people have been saying it's because of COVID-19, right? Everyone's got more time. Everyone's stuck in the house. You know, and when you're stuck in the house, Dota has its way of pulling you back in. One way or the
Oh yeah.
other. You think you're gone, you're never really gone. It's always going to be there. Um, what I get concerned about is after COVID-19's over, and hopefully it is soon. Do the player numbers go back down? Which I assume the answer is just going to be an immediate yes. Uh, what do you think? And we've talked about this many, many times.
Mm.
But for the podcast's sake, what does Valve need to do? Right? What do they need to do to bring Dota back to the glory days, the days where we had 1 million plus?
I'd say a couple of things. If you want actual new players to come in, you improve the new player experience because it's still not there. The game officially launched years ago, and we still have one of the worst new player experiences possible. I think that's definitely something to fix. If you want to retain players, you have to look at features that Dota 2 has now that have just been dead in the water. Dota Plus is really, really just dead.
Yeah.
We used to have these seasonal battle passes, and Dota Plus was supposed to be on top of that, and it has felt like that progression has kind of died out, which is interesting. That leads to a different topic regarding the Dota 2 workshop and item creators and then how they're doing, because it feels like we have seen far less involvement over the years in that. Like they focus mainly on TI with the submissions there on the creators' cash, collectors' cash, but beyond that, it has felt like you don't have that meta game anymore. It's not even a meta game. Just that little bit more of a carrot on a stick to keep people in beyond just pure joy of the game.
Of
Some
course.
weird side progression. And I
Well,
think that's lacking to retain a lot of people in. So for them, you play a couple of games, you lose, and then what happens? You don't gain anything outside the game. You just lose MMR, and it's just this kind of cycle that keeps staying dead even if you're not progressing. So a lot of people just kind of get sick of that and play something else. So I think that's something Valve has to look at. Like revive Dota Plus, that's one. And everyone's been saying this for years. Make the new player experience better. But at this point, I think Valve's accepted certain things that Dota 2 is way too complex to even tutorialize properly. And I think that's something the player base understands, but you would expect a bit more of a try. It's rough when the best source for people going into Dota 2 is a third party guide. I mean, Purge makes great guides. He's introduced a lot of people into Dota 2
he
transitioning in,
has.
but you would want the game itself to do that job.
Right.
Integrate it in the game.
You don't want to have to go and find Purge's channel. Like, it shouldn't be, maybe you do that after you've gone through the
Yeah,
in-game tutorial, which is meant to be there, but you don't want to do that initially. It's not the way it's
no.
meant to. Even if they, you know what, even if Dota said, all right, we're not going to introduce a tutorial, but let's just put where the tutorial is meant to be. Let's start linking these channels. These channels like Dota Alchemy, Purge, uh, there's Game Leap. All these channels that are dedicated to providing, tips and lessons on how to play Dota. Why not just give them the links? Why not just display them in the game? They're doing your game a favor regardless.
Oh yeah.
If you don't have the capacity to make a proper tutorial, and I understand it is hard with Dota. This is a very complicated game that's constantly changing. Just give them those resources. Don't make them look for it by themselves. Just be like, hey, here they are. Here's a list, and it'd be great for the actual content creators as well, because it's like, well, now we're getting supported by Valve, so we'll keep doing it. We'll put more effort into it. We wanna be in the game. Maybe we'd start doing it. Maybe we'd be like, you know what, John? Maybe we should do it because Dota's supporting it now.
Yeah.
But apart from that, first things first, I think because everyone's stuck inside, player base numbers are going up. Valve is a business. Valve, it's battle pass time, sirs
Oh yeah.
and ma'ams.
Oh yeah.
It's battle pass time. Come on, I know we might. I don't want to say it, but TI-10 more than likely. You mentioned it last week. Probably going to get delayed, right? Because it's going to be extremely hard to get all the teams and players into a single venue and make it work. You could make an online TI, but it's not going to be anywhere near the same. But still, Battle Pass. Why not just give us a really long Battle Pass? It's going to... Players like you, John, you love cosmetics.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
That would bring you back into the game, right? You would
Yeah.
specifically spend a lot more time in the game because you're going to get something out of it apart from
Yeah,
MMR,
exactly.
which you personally you don't care about MMR. Like it
No.
doesn't mean anything to you anymore.
No.
Where's the battle? Why not? Do you think they're working on it? Like I kind of predict it must be coming soon, right?
Here's the thing. I'm not sure how Valve plans to do it without the TI to tie it up. Right? Like I would love the battle pass, and I really, really, really think Dota 2 needs something. Uh outside meta progression in Dota 2 is needed. So a battle pass or even just updating Dota Plus is needed. We would
Something.
all love the battle pass. I just I can't see Valve doing it without the build up to TI. A battle pass. Maybe they'll call it something else. Maybe they'll call it yeah, brand it as something else, but I
Sure.
don't think it will be on the scale of TI. But definitely this is a good time for it. Like in fact, this is around the time you start getting teasers for it, right? Like earlier on, you'd already have pre-orders for the TI tickets, which hasn't happened, of course, because that again is still up in the air. So I think a lot of things are pushed backwards, but this is a great time for Valve to tap back to the workshop. Again, there's so many items in the workshop, so many talented artists and
Yeah.
authors pending approval. So you could just stick that in, slap some weird progression system, toss us one of your crappy game modes or whatever. Give us Year Beast again. I don't care. Although Year Beast was pretty atrocious. Let's not forget that that's a complete crapshoot of a game mode. But I found it fun because I paid a lot to have
Right.
fun. So, but give us something. I think that would do a lot more to retain the players after this whole thing blows over.
I agree, and I think it's going to give them a really good look too. You're going to make money. People are going to be happy. Content creators are going to feel like they're being taken care of. Uh, I don't see what there is to lose. It's not going to take away from a TI-10 battle pass. I don't think. I think
Mm,
people would still happily go and buy the TI-10 battle pass because, especially if it's going to be delayed. If you've already decided as Valve, if you've made the decision that TI-10 is not going to happen in August or whenever they wanted to do it, but I believe it was the usual August,
mm.
just release it, right? Because even if it's going to be a 6 month delay or a year delay or whatever the hell it's going to be, release this. Make it so you kind of estimate how much time you can keep it active for before you need to release the actual TI-10 Battle Pass. Sure, maybe you'll get a person here or there that says, hey, I've invested all my money into that one, the initial one, so now I can't do TI-10's Battle Pass. But even then, if I was Valve, I wouldn't make this one expensive. I'd
Oh
say
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's COVID-19. It's a pandemic. We want to help keep people at home. We'll maybe put an initial cost, like maybe a very small initial cost of $5-10 as it usually is, and then keep it at that. Or alternatively, make it free and just allow people to buy levels if they so wish.
Yeah,
Either
yeah.
either way, right? But just don't get too overboard with with trying to make as much money because you're gonna get a TI 10 battle pass anyway. Or alternatively, and I think this is the most preferred method, just make it so 25% of the money you make from this one goes to TI 10, and that also fixes the problem that I'm sure they're going to have where TI 10 may not have as high as a prize pool as TI 9 because, you can only go up so much more now.
Yeah.
So if you start it now, nobody would even think twice about the fact that you're going to have two battle passes contributing to TI 10's prize pool because you're helping, right? Keep
Mm.
people at home. You're helping. You're doing a good thing, but you're making money. You're making TI 10's prize pool money higher. You're helping content creators, and you're keeping us entertained. Because quite
Oh
frankly,
yeah.
I need some new cosmetics, John. There's not enough shiny stuff
Oh
in the
yeah.
game. I need
Yeah,
more,
definitely. It slowed down. It slowed down. We need more of those obnoxious particle effects.
more. It's
More.
never enough. I need
Never
I need my
enough.
graphics card to blow up. I need Monkey King's Wukong's command. It's not enough for me. I
No,
need
no.
more FPS drops.
Oh
Moving
god.
on from that, John. Hello, Roto Retro. By the way, I like to give Retro a shout out every time because he is always here.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Retro, always good to see you, sir. A pleasure as always. I just want to finish off on the state of Dota with one more question, John. Just before we get onto the topic that I know you're very excited to talk about. Where do you see Dota in 10 years? What do you think the longevity is like right now? Honestly, your honest opinion.
I think Dota 2 is always going to be there for anyone that already loves Dota 2. I think the game's just never going to die in that sense. You're always going to have that core fan base who plays nothing else but Dota 2, who only follows the Dota 2 scene. I think that there's a very big population that does that. I think in 10 years Dota 2 is going to be a lot. It's going to be around if it's not replaced by Dota 3. God help us if Valve can actually count there.
Hey,
I
don't
mean,
get too
we've
excited.
got hints of something else, but
No
maybe,
spoilers
maybe,
yet.
but
We'll wait a week for that.
oh yeah, oh yeah, but but I think the old players will still be there. I have a lot of a hard time imagining younger players. I think I'm in the Philippines. Young people today don't play Dota 2. Like it's not there. When you go to a net shop, it used to be kids my age, like 12-year-old kids playing Dota 1. And then when
Mm,
I was in college, we'd still go and it would still be 12-year-old kids playing Dota 2. The new
right.
generation was still playing. At this point, anyone that plays Dota 2 now is like at the very least maybe 18 to 20. We've missed an entire generation of people playing now in the Philippines, and this is like Dota 2 capital in terms of player base. It's
Mm.
not as healthy as it once was. You compare that to the amount of playing people playing like League, or I think the big one in the Philippines right now, and this is going to be a worrying point for a lot of I think PC based MOBAs is stuff like Mobile Legends.
Oh no.
So so it's absolute turd. I absolutely dislike it. I played that crap before. I was like, I'm just tapping a button and I'm winning my lane. What the hell's wrong with this other guy?
Yeah.
But this is what the kids play now. This is
Right.
not just the kids. This is what everyone play. People who play video games or not. And I think that's something um that we'd have to I mean Dota 2 would have to try to adapt. And I'm not saying that it should try to appeal to them, but you would certainly want to boost your presence, like maybe new players would be like, "Okay, this is great, but I want to play something more intensive, more in depth," and they jump into the PC and then that's when Dota 2 can shine. But as I see it now, like a ton of players really have been moving away. And I think the people who love Dota 2 now are always going to be there. But we have reached a point where if nothing's done, then we have to accept that we are going to be stagnant. It's not going to die. I think it's very, very wrong for people to say Dota 2 is going to die. That point has been proven wrong just by TI9. That's when the player base was also kind of steady. Same situation as now, but people paid even more to get TI9 to be the biggest one by a huge
Right.
margin.
Yeah.
So I don't think the game's dead. I think it's just aging.
Right. And I mean, not only is the game aging, but we are as well as a player
Oh
base.
yeah.
We're getting old, John. These hands of mine, they're getting a bit shaky. It's not a. I can't do the things I used to. I used to be a really good Invoker player, by the way. Back
Oh wow.
maybe I
Wow.
did. Honestly, I did. I'm not making this up, John. About in Dota 1 I started. In Dota 1 it was a bit more complicated because of the key bindings.
Oh, the
Uh
keybind. Hell.
and in Dota 2 when it first came out and Invoker came in, I honestly was pretty good. I didn't play Quas Wex because that was for I don't want to say the word, John. It's for the lesser man, the less cultured man. Uh, as far as I'm concerned, Quas Exhort was the way to go. If you wanted to win as Invoker, you had to play like a man and predict Sunstrikes. No setups.
Oh
No
yeah. Oh
setups.
yeah.
I don't want your stun or your Fiend's Grip or your,
Oh yeah.
your LC Jewels. I will predict where they're going to be, and I will
Oh
land
yeah.
that bastard, right? I don't even know what my initial point was anymore, but the point was, John, I'm getting old. That's the point. I'm getting old. My fingers don't work the same way anymore.
Mm.
I can't hit those keys as fast. I'm not as accurate as I used to be. I'd like some new players. I need some new players, right? I'm investing my life into this damn game. I love this game. I've been
Yeah.
playing for 15 plus years. Since Dota
Yeah.
1. I've been playing a long time. I want to see it succeed forever. I think
Oh
if
yeah.
you put the effort in, Dota 2 as an esport is going to last the next 20, 30, 50 years.
Absolutely.
It may look like a stretch. It might be a little crazy, but assuming eventually you release Dota 3, the player base and the fan base is still going to be there. We're crazy like that. I'm going to be
Oh yeah.
60 years old and still be watching Dota 2 or Dota 3, whatever it is. You know, I almost hope one day I have a son or a daughter, and I don't have any kids yet for anyone that's not aware. But the day I have a son or daughter, I hope one day they come to me and say, "Hey, Dad, there's this new game called Dota 3 that came out. You know, you should play with me." And I'd love to just act like I've never played the game before. And they'll be like, "Let's 1v1 mid SF." You know? And my wife will smile at me in the back, knowing, I'll just tell her, "Be
Yeah.
quiet." And she'll smile, knowing what I'm about to do to my own child. It's like when your son picks
Oh
up
man.
basketball for the first time. They didn't know you used to be a collegiate basketball player, and you just every time they go for a shot, just get it out of the corner. Get out of here, get that shit out of my court. Get it
That
out.
sounds terrible.
That's the kind of dad I want to be, though. There's no free passes with me, John. If you want a 1v1 mid SF, we'll 1v1 mid. But you better bring a lot of damn tangos. I'm not going to make it easy. Get those salves out, son.
God. 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 God help us. That sounds like one hell of a way to get started.
But that's what I
Oh
mean.
God.
Even at those ages, I want to be able to look back and be like, Dota's alive. And it's because
Oh
it's
yeah.
a fucking fantastic... It's brilliant. As a game, Ice Frog, fucking brilliant. You're a genius. Uh, just please, for the love of God, Valve, TI-10's coming up. You haven't released an ad for Dota. TI-10's coming. It's 10 years of Dota, of TI.
Yeah.
It's time. This is the time. Right? One ad. Just one. Please, one. Just give us a
Yeah.
chance.
Yeah, like the last time we got an ad was that Gamescom ad in 2013, right? And that got a lot of views. But again, you compare that to the scale of something like League. KDA got, what, 300 million views? And I play that song on Beat Saber like a retard
Yeah.
because it's catchy. I mean, say what you want about League, but KDA is a pretty catchy song on Beat Saber, at the very least. And we don't need something like that. I mean, I think if you actually did a video like that, you had Crystal Maiden, Lena, and I know Wind Ranger and Drow Ranger dressed up skimpily and dancing around, I think people would actually legitimately hate it.
And what about Queen of Pain?
You know, Queen of Pain's well, they want to show this on TV, Mike. You
Yes.
know, Queen
I
of
don't see
Pain
the
would,
problem.
but yeah, it's like I think you'd I think it's interesting. This would be the time for something like the Gamescom trailer at the very least.
I think just thank you, Nick. By the way, Nick agrees. We're sickos in Australia. We're
Oh
into
yeah, you
those
guys
kind
are.
of girls. Yeah, we're not into the the Crystal Maidens and the Lenas of the world. We want the ones that hold a knife to your throat. That's what we're just sickos, John. Anyway, regardless, we won't go any further about that because it's going to get a bit X-rated after this. This is the moment you have been waiting for, Jonathan. You previously, I will admit it, you were right. Artifact. I bought the game when it came out. You said to me, Mike, it's going to be terrible. I said, Jonathan, you're being ridiculous. This is Valve. This is a Valve game. They never fail. It's. I didn't necessarily believe in the business strategy of Artifact. I thought making people pay for the initial game and then forcing them to buy packs to get cards as well, I thought that was way too much. I knew that probably wasn't going to work, but I kind of assumed the Dota community would force it to work because it's Dota and we stick together and we make shit work if it has the Dota branding on it. Turns out I was wrong. You were right. You pointed it out straight away. This is a terrible idea. They have, however, announced, and one thing I believe you were somewhat wrong about, John, is you did say when Valve announced they were going to rework the whole game, you said to me, it's complete bullshit. They're just going to say that and they're going to leave it and let it die peacefully. And I believed you on that. I agreed. I assumed Valve was just going to let it die. I think even Slacks and everyone else that was really into that game, they really tried. I think they even thought, Valve's let it go. It's dead. They announced this morning, in fact, they put a blog post out. They announced that Artifact is being reworked. I don't know how to feel. I know a lot of people are excited. I'm partially excited because I like the idea of another Valve game, including Dota, working, and I think it's going to help bring more players into the game. Though I'd like to ask you, sir, as a very pessimistic Artifact person, how do you feel about that announcement?
Indifferent. I think overall indifferent because they haven't really talked about anything in there. Like they're just saying, okay, we were talking about the Artifact Beta 2.0. They allow zooming out. I don't even know what that means because again, I haven't played it. But that doesn't sound like a big shakeup because the mechanics still sound at its core the same. They have announced that they aren't selling cards. It's not clear if that's just for the beta though. So you
Right.
have to remember that isn't explicitly stated that the entire game is going to be this free to play open model where you just earn cards. And that still leaves a big question mark in the air because again, before Artifact launch, we were all under the impression that it would be pay in, but you wouldn't have to buy cards. You know,
Right.
you wouldn't have to trade for cards. We'd be looking at cosmetic itemization like Dota 2. So I don't think that's completely clear from this announcement just yet. And again, without any sort of indication as to what exactly they're planning, it's gonna be strange because I think overall, right, the feedback for Artifact is that it was a game with a lot of potential. There are some really quirky mechanics to it overall, and the monetization is really the sore point for me personally, right? Like I made it clear the moment that they announced it would be buy-in that the game is dead in Southeast Asia. No one
Right.
in their right minds in Southeast Asia would have played it because
Right.
we're fucking cheap, you know. We're fucking cheap. Like how many people actually play Magic the Gathering in the Philippines compared to
Well, I
anywhere else
think
in the world with
I don't think it's fair
concentration
to
of
say
geeks?
cheap. I think it's circumstances, right? Like
Yeah,
the USD is a very powerful currency in the world, and in Southeast Asia, you could make the argument their currencies and your currency in particular isn't doesn't translate well to USD.
yeah, but
So
it's mainly the fact that most people wouldn't spend in video. You see, so
right,
the reason why Dota 1 was big was because pirated Warcraft 3 was big. And Dota
right,
1 was a free map. So you just download it, you play it. It's a great multiplayer game. People played in Garena and stuff. And piracy, or at the very least, third party LAN clients, is the reason why Dota became so big. And then League of Legends was, and then Dota 2 is free. And I just couldn't see Artifact becoming big in Southeast Asia. And if it couldn't be big in Southeast Asia, then you'd lose a big player base. Like, sure, maybe it takes off in Europe, maybe it takes off in America. But you have to remember that the gaming base of card game players anyway is a bit is way smaller
it's niche.
than the player bases for MOBA. You know, it's much more niche. Like you take a look at Hearthstone, that's the biggest card game there is, and that one has been facing some fluctuations in numbers. I'm actually not sure anymore. I don't even see news about
Mm.
Hearthstone nowadays. I used to catch it a lot, and now I don't even hear about it. But and this change is good. I mean, overall, look, it's great that they're going back to it. It's great they're going to be trying to fix it out. I am still a bit cautious because again, all of this is relating to the beta. They haven't made it clear that the new release is going to be reworked to be free, or if cards are going to be accessible to everyone. And I think that still leaves a lot in the air. It's interesting that Valve actually chose to announce something so vague. They haven't really done vague announcements in a long time for good reason. Like their most recent announcement was Alex before release. That was a very clear announcement. No vagueness there. It's a VR product. It's coming out March, or it's coming out 2020. Very
Mm.
clear. This one is a very rough outline, and I'm surprised Valve actually said anything at this point. But they have mentioned it in a couple of interviews. Like if you actually watch interviews about uh, Alex, they talk about Valve overall. They talk about progress, development, and Artifact was mentioned a couple of times. So I can see why they finally made a statement. But it's very little to work on. So we'll see how exactly it shapes up. I'm still very kind of cynical about it.
Mm.
We'll see.
I gotta admit, John, I'm kind of on the same page at the moment. As far as I can tell from their blog post. By the way, Gushi, thank you for joining us. And you see, John, I knew that the viewers would appreciate my floral shirts, right? John questioned me about wearing floral shirts on the podcast. I told him it was necessary. The viewers would appreciate it. Thank you, Gushi. I do appreciate you appreciating my shirt. It is a little bit big now. I have been losing some weight. I was a bit, to not sugarcoat things, I was pretty fat at the time when I did buy this. And I can say that because I'm talking about myself. So nobody get offended by me using the word fat, please. But I still think it's pretty baggy right now. Look at this.
It's nice. It's relaxing. It's like
Yeah.
makes me think of Hawaii for some reason.
Thank you, Nick. He's using the right words. I was voluptuous at the time. Uh,
It's a nice way to
any,
put it, Nick.
anyway, back to back to what I was saying though. I am quite cynical about Artifact. From what I can tell about the blog post they released, it seemed they have announced that they are going to have a model where you work for the cards. You play games and you earn the cards somehow. So it's not going to be. You could probably still buy cards. I'm not going to be surprised if they still have that option. There probably would still be a marketplace for them, but it seems as though you're going to be able to, from what I can tell, they're going to allow you to earn the cards through the game, and hopefully it's with reasonable amounts of time. Like I hope they're not going to make it so it's 100 hours to get an
Oh
average
God.
card. Like like because Hearthstone was quite ridiculous with that, right? I
Mm.
played a bit of Hearthstone when it first came out. And it's like, okay, you can earn the cards. That's fine. But be prepared to put hundreds or thousands of hours into this game. And then even then, you better hope you get lucky to find some of those legendary cards. And
Oh yeah.
if you wanted to fit the meta, if you wanted to be a top player in the game, just forget about it. You've got to buy cards. It's as simple as that. You're buying packs. That's it.
Mm.
And initially, that was the thing with Artifact. They were saying you can buy packs, but there'll be a market. So there'll be less RNG. You can buy the cards you want. You don't need to go through 50 billion packs to get the card you want. You could just directly buy it for a set price. But they haven't said in this blog post, John, what they haven't said is what concerns me. They haven't said that the game is going to be free to play to
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
get in.
No.
That's what upsets me a little bit. Because again, we look to the Southeast Asian region. Uh, and it doesn't seem like much. 20 USD, I think it was when the game first came out.
It's a lot. It's a
It's a
lot though.
lot.
Like
It's a lot for people. Uh,
yeah. Like I take a look at that store page. It says 1,100 pesos. That's a buffet meal in a restaurant. That's a
right.
high quality hotel, 5-star hotel in my city. That's a lunch buffet.
Well,
It's like a lot of money for a lot of people, and for me, that's not a reasonable purchase for a game that is based around getting more cards that you'd have to buy packs for. It's just not, and a lot of people in my region would look at it that way.
right. I that's the thing. For me personally, 20 USD. I can't even buy toilet paper right now with that, so there's that. But it's circumstances, right? People in Southeast Asia, in general, are going to have a lot more issue with paying that amount of money for a
Mm.
game that is so niche. Like, when you think of a card game like Artifact, which is going to be a lot harder to get into as well, it's not like you sit there and you go, yeah, I'm going to risk 20 USD and hopefully I'll like this game. It's I don't know. It's just it hadn't got a name for itself yet.
No.
Like there was no solid branding for Artifacts. So the fact that they put the initial price on top of the fact that you had to purchase packs, purchase cards, purchase tickets to play certain game. I mean, that's where it got really ridiculous. Like,
Oh yeah.
I have to purchase a ticket to play a game mode so I can earn more. I mean, that's kind of crazy to me. Like, this isn't Battle Cup. And even for Battle Cup in Dota 2, I still find that ridiculous. I think that Battle Cup should be free. It's a part of your damn game. Look, they made an improvement. They made it part of Dota Plus, and I think that's gives you a reason to have the darn, Dota Plus system in the first place.
Mm.
I just think they went way too greedy, and I think everyone would agree that they need to calm down and make the artifact its own standalone brand first.
Yeah.
And then, if you want to start releasing expansions and charging for those, sure. You've got a player base now. You could do that. But if you release the game again with an initial cost, with I think pack purchases are still fine as long as you can earn the cards. But things like you've got to pay to be involved in game modes, I think forget about it. We're going to have a repeat. It's going to be a little bit better than last time, probably. Maybe you get a bigger initial influx. But after that, it's same thing's going to happen. Maybe
Yeah.
during COVID-19, maybe there'll be higher player numbers. Maybe you'll have more retention. But God knows, as soon as this pandemic's over, if that's still the case, if you're still putting those costs in front of your game, I don't know. I don't think you have any longevity. I think it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my biggest worry with Artifact is that there's only so much you can do to a collectible card game. There's only so many game mechanics you can toss in without it eventually devolving to what new cards can we make for updates, right? Like there's only so much variation in
Yeah,
that core
I get it.
gameplay without deviating from giving people different set of cards. And that's the thing, right? Like if you give everyone the same cards, let's say everyone has all these cards, then at some point optimization will lead to the point where everyone's gonna have the same deck. And then if you gate away those cards by a paywall, then you'd have issues with balance. And then again, that's just the core issue with trying to flesh out card games, I think. So that's something Valve, I don't think, really solved with Artifact anyway. And it's going to be interesting to see whether or not 2.0 will solve that core mechanical issue of card games.
Yeah, it is going to be an issue. That's for sure. And I do understand. I should premise this again. When I talk about Artifact and I get a bit passionate about all these costs they put in to actually get into the game, I get it. It's a business, right? And I think a lot of people don't get that. Like, they just like to complain about Valve's being greedy. No. It's not that they're being greedy. It's a business. Businesses are there to make money. If you're not making money, then you're not a business. You're a charity, right? It's they've got to make money. I get that, and I hope that they make a hell of a lot of money off Artifact. I really do. But man, oh man, you've got to get some plays in. You've got to make the brand well known. It's not like it's not Half-Life, It's when you released Half-Life Alyx with hardly any with no advertising basically, and hardly any information, and it was VR. The reason why it succeeded was because it was fucking Half-Life, right? If you release Dota 3, it's because it's Dota, right? TF3, Portal 3, Half-Life 3, they're all going to work because you have the fans. But Artifact, what does that mean? Means nothing. I'll just go play
Yeah,
some Hearthstone. You
yeah.
know?
It's like again, they were hoping the Dota 2 brand would be big enough. The crossover is just not there, not
Yeah.
much anyway.
Yeah. Apart from that, John, I think we've gone over pretty much everything regarding Artifact. I think it is a good time. I should say it's probably a good time. You'll get some decent player base, a decent amount of people testing the game, because we all are on lockdown. We're stuck at home. So if you want to give us something to do, you got the battle pass that should be coming soon, hopefully. Artifact, I would release it pretty soon if I was Valve. There's never a better time. As long as they've polished the game and they've done it properly this time, and hopefully, I mean, I'm sure they're very smart people. I'm sure they know
Mm.
that the initial costs and the ticket costs and all that crap really screwed them over. Like you
Yeah.
didn't even give people a chance to really play the game. I tried. You advised me against it. You said, Mike, it's probably not going to be a good game. And I said, look, I'm going to try. I want to give Valve that respect. I'm going to give them a shot. And I even said to you after the first day of playing that game, hey, John, it's actually pretty fun. I think you'd enjoy it. And I
Mm.
honestly did believe that. But once you got into the second or third day, that's when you start to feel it already. It felt bland. It felt
Mm.
bland. I wanted to play some game modes, but I had to buy tickets. I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to buy tickets. I want to just play the game I paid for. You
Mm.
know, this isn't. We're not playing a fucking EA game where they give you they give you half a game and we're going to release the second half in an expansion that's going to cost you another $100. You know, we have faith in Valve to do the right thing, and I think this time they are. I think they've learned their lesson. I truly do. Um, Moving on, John. We have been going for actually quite a while. I mean, last week I feel like during the first episode of the podcast we were a bit, we were maybe moving past the topics a bit too fast. This week, however, John, I think we've done a pretty good job. It's already an hour and 15 minutes, by the way,
Yeah.
of us being live. And this is the time where I'm going to open up the stage completely to you for about however long you want to talk about whatever you want, whether it be
Mm.
personal, whether it be gaming related, whatever you want, John. What is it that's interesting, John, today, or rather this week?
I think it's kind of interesting for me how the pandemic has kind of shifted gears. I mean, honestly, I'm quite thankful for how social medias work out because it led me to shutting out certain toxic people from my life, at least in my online life. So I don't have to see that anymore. And overall, yeah, I've been happy to past week. Last week I was pretty upset. I was upset at a lot of news. I was
You
upset at
were.
what people were saying. Now it's quite all quiet in the Western Front. I'm very pleased. I'm very happy. I have to say, I wonder if people are surprised with the situation on the pandemic in the Philippines because I believe let me just check the stats. Right now, I believe the Philippines has apparently we've shot up to 1,000 confirmed cases. I'm not sure about that. I
Well,
really don't
that's
check the
terrible
stats anymore.
news.
Yeah, so we've shot up to that point, but I think that's again that's to be expected. Like when you enact these quarantines, people have already been around. In my city, we've backtraced the person who got confirmed, and he was in a big what you we call it the galera here. So it's like a cockfighting ring, like an arena for cockfighting. So he was in the
Cockfight?
audience cockfighting,
Wait, what?
roosters,
Oh, is
roosters
that a legal
cockfighting.
thing in the Philippines?
Yeah, yeah, it's illegal. It's
I
part
see.
of our culture. It's a Spanish
Okay.
thing.
Okay. All right.
So we traced one case in my city to that location, and apparently someone who was in that location now in a different city got it. So these things spread like that,
Yeah.
and even when they call that quarantine, if someone was infected before it, then it's probably spread to this number. I think again, this number is just going to get worse, but overall, considering my country's situation, it could have been a lot worse. And I think this is something a lot of people don't appreciate. Yeah, yeah, it's bad. It's bad all over the place.
Right.
But at the very least, what you call the heavy-handed approach is mitigating these cases, like the future pop-up. The numbers will still rise.
Hmm.
Don't get me wrong. It's still going to get worse before it gets better. But it could have been worse. It could have been much worse to start off with. So I think that's something at the very least that I can appreciate. I think the situation so far has been rough. You've got our hospitals are kind of messed up, but that's to be expected. Like we're a poor country. We've got
Everyone's
yeah,
suffering like that.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
been a rough time, but I think that's mainly it for real life stuff over
Mm.
here. Well, basically like a news update. I think the country, I mean, it's like everywhere else, it's pretty bad. Pretty much the entire country's been on lockdown for at least 2 weeks now. I want
So,
to say around 2 weeks. I
just
can't even keep track of time.
just to confirm, you
Yeah,
you said you saw an article for 1,000 confirmed cases, not deaths. This is just
yeah,
infect.
confirmed cases.
Okay. I would say that's pretty good. Like I've been looking at the numbers across the world, The fact that the Philippines has been able to control it that well, honestly, man, props to them. Like, props to you guys.
Yeah, I think people just don't appreciate that because it's still bad. Don't get me wrong.
Of
This
course.
is still bad, but the fact that out of a country of 100 million people and 20 million in Manila alone, and we've managed to at least until now just 1,500. Although that I expect that to grow by at least 500, maybe more, because we just got more test kits.
Mm.
But I think it's controlled as well as you'd expect from a country with so little resources to control that. That it it's something at the very least. It's like it again. It could be worse, and I appreciate that the measures are at least preventing a massive, bigger scale. Because you look at the countries around the Philippines, I think compared to their populations, um, it's a bit rougher.
Yeah. I,
Like
I can give you an example right now, John. My
mm,
own country. We have, I think it's 27, 28 million people in the whole country.
yeah, yeah,
As of right now, 4,359 confirmed cases. Uh,
yeah. That's a
Considering you
lot.
guys have 100 million and we have basically a quarter of that, I think 1,000 people is, as much as I don't want anyone to be infected, I think you guys are doing pretty darn well.
Yeah, I just expect that number to shoot up, and um, people haven't been staying as still. Now I can't blame them. A lot of people, live under no work, no pay, so they definitely have to work. They have to
Of
maintain their
course.
business and do stuff like that. It's been hard on them. Like transportation's been hard. Going in and out of big cities has been next to impossible. They've tightened up inspections on anything that goes through, so there has been slowdowns. But you got to do what you can, and I think in that case, yeah, we are doing what we can. It could be better. It could always be better.
Right.
But for what it's worth, I think it's off to as good as you could probably get for Southeast Asia, for the Philippines. Like my expectations were surpassed, and I think a lot of people here just fail to realize that they don't look outside, and that's the biggest issue I have with the mindset in my country, the mindset of my own countrymen. It's very Filipino centric, positive or negative. If something bad happens, oh, the Philippines is the most corrupt country in the world. Oh, we're the worst people in the world. It's always we have to be the most in something, good or bad. And I think
Right.
that's just it's such a toxic mindset
I would
that
go.
blows up the good and blows up the bad.
I mean, look, I can't confirm. I don't live in the Philippines, nor do I live in sea. But I would hardly say you guys are the most corrupt country. I mean, it's just,
I
you
mean, it's
know,
bad, but
it's
it's like
bad. Yeah.
you'd think that talking to people, it's like we're not even modern, it's some people. So it's showing in discussions of this. Like people say, "Oh, we're doing so bad." People don't even look at their neighbors. Like you take a look at Malaysia. Malaysia's a far more developed country. They reacted much later. They reacted at least 2 to 3 weeks
Look
later.
at America. I mean,
I mean, yeah, America's in a really rough state, and I think it's really wild what's happening there. But
it's very sad. Very sad
yeah,
indeed.
it's like I think people need to be a bit less randomly angry. I think a lot of calm is still needed. It's been better in the past few weeks, but a lot of calm is still needed.
Okay.
That's the local news update. I think what's been on my mind,
Mm.
funny enough, is still Alex, which I find
Okay.
funny. I have to talk about this. I keep hearing you say Alex, and I just find that interesting. Why do you say
Isn't it?
Alex? It's
Well,
Alex, like Alex, just faster. Yeah, Alex.
okay. But
It's
they
just
don't spell it Alex. That's the thing.
no, but they pronounce it in game as Alex.
Right.
Alex
Well,
Van.
John. Unfortunately, I don't have VR,
Hey,
so I don't.
I told you to play Half-Life 2, Mike.
Hey, don't reveal that information, right? I can't have people knowing that I haven't actually played the series, but now they do.
Yeah,
So
it's
I didn't have
it's
a
it's great.
childhood. All right, I was a poor person. I was poor, John. Look, I barely had a PC, let alone a PC
Oh, hey.
capable of running Half-Life or Half-Life 2. Thank you. I was still playing Solitaire and fucking what's Minesweeper on Windows XP, I think it was at the time. All right, so
Oh yeah, oh, yeah.
give me a bit of credit. All right.
Hey,
Uh,
look. I was stuck on Windows 98 when SimCity 4 came out. Okay, and I was wondering why isn't SimCity 4 running on my PC? It turns out because we were still in Windows 98. So we went to XP. I was like, hey, it runs. It ran like crap. but I was stuck in 98 for a long time. My first video game on the PC was Timon and Pumbaa's Typing Adventure. And
Oof.
if you actually know that game, I'd be actually amazed. Yeah, is that even the title? Timon and Pumbaa Typing Adventure. I think that was it. Yeah. Wow. I actually remember. How did I Adventures in Typing with Timon and Pumbaa? I don't know how I remember that, but that was my first video game. But Alex, Mike, Alex, ooh, that game is amazing.
Tell me about it.
That game is just it's I finished the game through my Oculus Quest by Link, and the experience was honestly the performance. I can't isolate what the issue. Like I set everything to max. I was keeping steady max frame rate for my headset. I did notice texture popping, and that's down to Valve. I think setting Alex to prioritize FPS, which is fair. In VR, FPS is king. I couldn't tell why I didn't have enough VRAM for that. I mean, I'm on a 2080 Super, that's 8 gigabytes of VRAM. It's a pretty high-end card. And I was churning a bit because, well, I was trying to stream. So that
Right.
could explain it. Like I was encoding on NVENC, my GPU's encoding it onto my Quest because that thing is by USB, so it has to be rendered out as a kind of video file to play back. But Alex was great. I think if you actually look at it and if you're not streaming, oh man, the game looks amazing. It's Source 2 at its best. And we've had Source 2 and Dota 2 for a while, right? And you didn't really see a massive visual overhaul, but on FPS, it's great. And the news is CS:GO is getting ready for a Source 2 update. I think that's going to do a lot.
Well,
Although most people play on low, let's be fair. CS:GO pros probably play on low, 240 FPS
still
at 1080p,
good
right?
news.
But for anyone that likes it, I think it's going to be easier for a lot of systems to push that because of the Vulkan integration onto this. It's going to be a lot easier with lower end cards that prioritize compute a bit better than other stuff. I think the news related to Alex is great. The ending is massive, and I won't talk about that just yet because a lot of people still probably want to experience that. But there's a lot building off of Alex, and this is the most open Valve has been thanks to Alex. Like they've had a lot of interviews where they don't only talk about Alex, but the future of Half-Life, the future of Source 2 engine, the troubles they had in developing for VR, which is great insights to engine development and stuff like that. So I think overall Alex is great. I think it's a great sign for what's next. And there is next. That's the amazing thing. Like Valve has been so forthright. Like I think that's what forced them to talk about Artifact was because they were talking about so much else, and everyone was asking about Artifact that they had to mention it.
Okay.
But it spells a lot for the future of Valve, for the future of VR as a platform. I'm looking forward to what's coming next. I want more. I finished it in like 13 hours. It was a bit fast because I was running away a lot because I ran out of ammo. Really bad ammo match. I was running away, like skipping parts of levels because I ran out. I was like, oh god, I don't want. So I kind of skipped through some parts just by running away, but it
I
was
imagine.
long enough. Yeah, yeah.
I,
It's like
I imagine you're gonna redo it though, anyway, right? Like
I
a
am.
second
Like
run. Yeah.
I've got an achievement I want to do. Well, a certain garden gnome appears, and you have to do that all over again as you did in episode 2, I believe, is when you had that achievement. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna repeat that. I think I did get 100% in Half-Life 2, so I'd like to keep that up in Alex at the very least. I don't know about episode 1 and 2. I didn't really get to replay them as much, but I did 100% Half-Life 2, so I'm
Okay.
gonna try to do that with Alex. And I need more. Like 12 hours, 13 hours, it's amazing for VR. I would like something really involved. Half-Life 2 was about it felt like forever, like that entire campaign. And I know Valve has more in plan. I can't wait. I mean, I can wait at the same time I can't.
Well, as much as I've heard you complain about the way they do things at Valve sometimes, you're a big fan. You're a huge
Oh
fan,
yeah, yeah,
obviously.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
You really enjoy their games. I mean, I do as well. And you did send me a copy of Half-Life 2, and I did start it. I'm about an hour in, and then this life game. You know what? I should be honest. The reason why I stopped playing it, because I'm a real scaredy cat when it comes to these kind of games. So
Yeah.
I didn't realize Half-Life was such a dark and
Oh
there's a
yeah.
few there's a few moments where you really have to start running because things are chasing you and crap like that, and that's never been my kind of game. I've always it's weird because if it's real life, I'm not really afraid of much, right?
Yeah.
But if it comes to a game, something about it just scares me. I don't know. I just get the adrenaline starts going, and I get concerned, and maybe it's the anxiety or whatever the fuck else, But I'm gonna do it. I have been saying for
You got
years now. I'm gonna go play Half-Life, Half-Life 2, all the episodes. I want to catch up. I
it.
haven't
Yeah,
read
yeah,
the
yeah.
story. I haven't spoiled it for myself.
Good. Good.
Yeah. Um, Maybe I'll do it after this. Who the hell knows? I keep saying I'll do it and I keep putting it off. But soon I will. Regardless, John, is that it for your
Yeah,
update?
yeah. That's all I've got left in me. I
Okay.
think I've ranted enough.
Well, it's time for me to rant a little bit. First of all, it seems that I will give the COVID-19 update. Good news for Australia. We have been going down in the number of people that are gaining
Mm.
COVID-19, which is great. So our numbers are starting to slowly drop, and that is I believe we're in level 3 lockdown now. So there's been quite a few laws in place. A lot of people breaking those laws, which is really upsetting to see. Look, we're in autumn now, approaching winter. It's fucking cold outside. But for some reason, if you lock these people into their homes, suddenly everyone wants to go to the beach for some reason. So, and I don't mean to point fingers, John, but it does tend to be the better off people in
Oh.
closer to the city. I don't like to blame the wealthy, but it does seem like that's where it's been happening a lot.
Huh.
Uh, and those people, a lot of them, our age. It's not so much the older generation, but it is
Mm.
our age. Uh, Around the 25 to 30, maybe you could say early 20s. Uh, they've been sneaking off to the beach. So the beaches and other public places where people usually gather, they've been locked down naturally because the less they go, the less we're going to spread the virus, the faster we get over it, right?
Mm.
These people have been still jumping the fence, going surfing, grouping up, and in huge groups. And it's like, I just don't fucking get it. We're almost in winter now. It's freezing outside. Can you not just stay inside for a couple weeks? Is that so hard? I get it. You've got these social bugs. I get it. They need to be out. They need to be talking to people. We are in 2020 now. Our internet used to be really bad in Australia. Now it's actually pretty decent, right? I've got
Yeah.
100 down, 40 up. Pretty decent stuff. You can basically do anything with that internet. We're in
Mm.
2020. You've got a million apps. You could use your phone, jump on, you could video call somebody, you know. Even if you wanted to go over each other's houses, nobody would know about it. You both don't have COVID, so the likelihood is you're not going to catch it off each other, you know. But the fact that people, when they get asked politely not to attend beaches and public areas, decide to flock in numbers to they decide to rebel. It's just the saddest thing I've ever seen. Are you really telling me while we're approaching winter in the middle of autumn, your only concern is if you can go to the beach, and regardless of everyone else's safety, and regardless of the economy which is dwindling, and I think they were saying that in a couple months there's going to be 6 million people out of the 27 that's here in Australia unemployed. That doesn't bother
Right.
you because you need to go get wet in the fucking seawater for a bit. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like, just go
man.
have a shower. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's not that damn hard. Like, you want to get wet, just go jump in the bathtub. I mean, it's ridiculous, man. It's like, look, I'll tell you what, my TV broke a couple weeks ago. I have no TV right now,
All right.
right? I've got a PC. My wife and I
Mm.
have phones, and we have each other.
Mm.
Apparently, that's not enough for people. Like, you've got PCs, you've got TVs, you've got unlimited entertainment, right? So many things
Mm.
are. Even bloody Pornhub is offering free membership
Oh
right
yeah. Oh
now.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
everyone's covered here. And you're telling me you can't sit at home for a couple weeks and just chill out and spend time with your family. But why the hell do these people get married in the first place? I don't understand. Why did you get involved? Why did you create a family? Why did you have kids? I don't
I
get it.
know.
What, do you not enjoy your life with your children? Is your life so pitiful that you need to go to a beach and hang out with the rest of the drop kicks that can't follow some rules for a couple weeks, right? Is that how boring your life is? The only entertainment you find in life is sand, apparently. Like it's just, I hate to say, it's just the most un-Australian thing I've ever seen. It's just pathetic, man. It's just crazy. Look, it may not affect you, but people are dying, right? And it may not affect you because maybe you have a great job that's never going to be affected by these kind of pandemics. But people are losing their jobs. A lot of people are losing their jobs. And whether you want to comment on what the government's doing or not, and quite frankly, I don't like our current government either, right? A lot of people don't like Mr. Scotty Morrison. Neither do I. I think he's an idiot, right? But real people are losing their jobs. People are going homeless. They're struggling to pay the rent or the mortgage. They're struggling to buy food, And it's like, all you have to do in your actual privileged situation, right? The situation where you have money, you have a home, you have all the comforts of being a wealthy person. Sit the fuck down for a couple weeks and just watch some TV. Just put on the Foxtel. God knows you have it. Put on Netflix. You got a girlfriend? Hang out with your girlfriend for a bit. You got a wife? Try talking to her. And women out there, believe it or not, you can talk to your husband as well. We're not completely brain dead. You got children. It'd be nice to get some attention. I mean, as a child, I didn't get much. I can tell you, it's nice when your parent gives you a bit of attention. I don't know why this is so complicated to people. There's a problem right now, and the only solution is for you to sit at home. We're not asking you to run, a 50K marathon, with no training. Just sit at home. Just chillax. I could, if this happened to me while I had a full-time job, John, I would have been the most comfortable I would have been like, well, I get weeks off at work? That's cool. I'll take that. It's cool. No problem. I get to talk to my wife for a couple of weeks. Fantastic. Among other things that we could obviously do, like watch TV, watch movies together, eat, cook together. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't get it. If your life's that boring that you can't sit at home for a couple of weeks and just chill out, I mean, it's just, I don't know what to say. You've got no hope is what I'm saying. You really don't. You've got no hope in life. Like, maybe you feed off your parents' money. Maybe you just fail. Whatever it is, I hope you make it, but really you've got no hope. And as well as that, John, people that have been coming in back to Australia are forced to take a 2-week quarantine.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough. It's only it's reasonable. 2 weeks. They've been given a 5-star hotel to stay in.
Wow.
Now there was a complaint from these people. Now, mind you, these people were warned by the government many, many times before they initially brought out that law that they would have to go in quarantine for 2 weeks. They said, come home now. This is when the pandemic first started. We'd only had like 1 or 2 people infected. They made so many announcements. Leave your holiday behind. Come home right now. Get a flight. Ask your plane ticket provider. Get home, right? Because the longer you wait, the more complicated it's going to be for you to get here, and the worse it's going to be when you get back, right? Some people didn't listen. Some people had to take full value out of their holiday, right? Then the government said, you're taking a 2-week lockdown. We're going to give you a 5-star hotel. You're going to have all your food and expenses paid for, TVs, crap like that. The only thing we ask of you is you've got to sit in this hotel room. You're not getting out. People have been complaining.
Why?
They've been complaining that the standards of the hotel aren't 5 stars. And look, fair enough. I've seen some pictures, and I agree. It looks like they've been going through renovations. And I would say, if I was paying for a 5-star hotel like that, I'd be very upset. Okay? But here's the fucking point. You were warned to come back into the country ASAP. You either got stuck or chose not to. I'm going to go out on a whim and say it'd be pretty hard to get stuck. I could see it happening for a couple of them, but I'd say 80-90% of those people that are in quarantine right now probably chose not to come back home early until it was too late. Okay? They got given a 5-star hotel. And now they're sooking and complaining that it's not actually a 5-star hotel. Well, we're sorry to the people in the quarantines that couldn't get the luxury of a proper 5-star hotel. God forbid, it can't be their fault for not listening when they were warned multiple times. I mean, this was every day. I heard it 10 times a day. Come home right now. Come home, come home, come home. These people stay there, enjoy the rest of their holiday. They come back, and now they're crying. The first thing they cried about, John, they weren't getting any fresh air in the hotel rooms. It was all air-conditioned, recycled air. Oh, God forbid.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sorry. Are you breathing? If you're breathing, I can't say I really have a problem with air-conditioned air. After that, they started saying they were forgotten about because they used to be able to go get takeaway food. Now they're forced to eat the hotel's food, and they're saying the hotel's food quality isn't great. It's in other third world countries, John. They probably would have put you on a remote island or in jail, or it wouldn't be a fucking 5-star hotel.
No,
you know what I'm
God,
saying?
no.
It's like hotel food isn't prison food. It's probably way better than hospital grade food.
Oh yeah.
So I would have, and it's like these people are sooking, complaining they can't make the choice anymore, and now they're saying they've been forgotten about, and it's like, well, it's not that you've been forgotten about. You've just got to stay in a hotel room. What were you expecting? The hotel staff were going to come say hello every 5 minutes? Like, do you not have a phone? It's
Oh God.
it's just the people these days. It's like you get told something, follow directions, or shit happens.
Oh yeah.
It's like, and you've been given, whether it's considered 5-star or not, but on the actual hotel website it is, and judging from the hotel website's photos it is, but judging from the photos that have been leaked, there's been renovations going on, and it's really not up to the quality of a 5-star hotel. But for the love of God, it's 2 weeks. Most of these people have their partners or a friend, and they're both locked in together. It can't be that bad. I mean, you've got the internet, you've got a TV, you've got free food. They've loaded them with alcohol. Each of them getting cases of beer and champagne, wine.
But what's the problem?
Oh, you know what the problem is, John? Is these idiots didn't get what they wanted. They wanted to be... It's like, look, you had a choice. Come back home early and sacrifice a bit of your holiday for the sake of getting to your home, or you're going to have to put up with these kind of consequences, which nobody really wants you to go through. But it's not at your expense.
Oh yeah.
Right? The government's paid for you. They're paying for your food. They're paying for all the alcohol you're drinking. As far as I'm concerned, right, I wouldn't have even given them that. I would have been like, look, you're late. Here's a room. It's not a 5-star hotel. We're going to give you a motel. And you're going to sit there and shut your damn mouths until the 2 weeks is over because you couldn't follow instructions unless you could prove to me that you were legitimately stuck there and you had no other option. In which case we may make, some adjustments to your accommodation. But you broke the rules. You have no priority. You have no say. I mean, my God, it's a pandemic. Just stop crying. Apart from that, John, I've had enough of ranting about COVID-19. I want to talk about what I am even more appalled about. Unfortunately, there's no good news from me today.
Wow, what is it?
You know what it is, John. We talked about it. My Ducky Shine 7.
Oh, okay. So what's the update on that? I mean, weren't you supposed to get a response, a call?
So for people that don't know, for the first time in my life, I invested in a very, very nice keyboard. John, you have this keyboard. You would agree.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I can
show it to
now.
the viewers. Give us a look.
Here it is.
It's a fantastic keyboard. Oh, you got the
Absolutely.
year of the dog, right?
Yeah, because I bought it like last year. I mean,
Okay.
didn't you buy yours last year?
I did, but mine's year of the boar.
Oh yeah, because it shifted. So yeah, it's a lovely
Okay.
keyboard.
It's a fantastic keyboard. It really is. It's different. Trust me, if you haven't tried a Ducky keyboard, if you ever see it in a shop, just go type on it. You'll feel the difference straight away. It's just different. So I got very excited. I bought a keyboard. It was 6 months ago, just about 6 months ago. my first ever Ducky keyboard.
Mm.
I've been wanting it for years. I finally got one. And boy, oh boy, it was sweet, John. It was a
Mm.
sweet life. You know, you jump on the
Oh yeah.
PC and it's like you're getting a finger massage. I mean, these keyboards are
Oh yeah.
fantastic.
Oh yeah. They really are.
You felt important when you typed a message to. You know, it just
Mm.
you felt a bit better because of how much you've paid for this damn keyboard, and it looks great. The RGBs are fucking beautiful.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The space bar, the little art design they put on there, the colored keycaps they offer you, it's just fantastic. Just the little
Yeah.
things, even the plastic cover they give you to put on top of your keyboard so you don't get
Oh
dust and particles collecting. I love that. I think it's fantastic. But there is one thing Duckies are known for. That's reliability.
yeah. Yeah.
I've had a friend that's owned his for over 5 years, hasn't had a problem. I've read reviews over and over again saying Duckies never die. They just keep going. After 5-6 months, John, my Ducky keyboard has malfunctioned. I can't believe I was heartbroken. I really was. Sitting there, jumped on my PC. That was the first day of ESL, I believe it was.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
And I'm sitting there just trying to log in to my PC, typing in my password. It says I typed in the incorrect password. I said, I never type in the incorrect password. I have a Ducky keyboard. I don't miss keys, right? Tried it again. Same thing happened. I locked myself out for a couple minutes. Thank you, Windows, by the way, for that, for your security measures. And then I realized the keys weren't working. The bottom row of keys, not the one just above the space bar, right?
Yeah.
So that row of keys, some of them were working, some of them weren't. Eventually, I used the PC's keyboard, like the soft keyboard that you can use through Windows. Used that, logged in, tried to fix it. You were even helping me troubleshoot. I changed the cable. I tried different PCs. We uninstalled drivers. We reinstalled drivers, and I believe the physical board. I can't believe I'm saying this, but after 5-6 months, my Ducky keyboard is broken, John. And I'm very scared right now. I'm scared. Because, with these Ducky keyboards, nobody believes you when they say it broke just by itself. Everyone says, oh, it's a Ducky keyboard. It can't break by itself. They're too good. It's too reliable. How could that happen? And so what I've done is I've emailed the shop that I bought it from, because I did look up Ducky's website and the support page. And they have specified that in certain countries they do have places like service repair shops you can take it to, and they'll specifically take care of it. Unfortunately, in Australia, that we aren't one of those countries that has the luxury, so we have to return it back to the shop. I'm located in Sydney. The shop's in Melbourne, which means I've got to organize it with them and mail it back to them more than likely, and hope that they either repair it really well or replace it. And I'm hoping for the replacement personally, because I've paid a lot of money for the damn keyboard. I don't want it repaired. I want a new one. I want one that's going to work, okay?
For sure.
I've emailed them today because unluckily, and this is something I was scared about, my keyboard broke on a Friday night, and the service department of this shop is not open on the weekends, and they closed from 4 p.m. and the keyboard broke after that point. So I thought to myself, okay, Monday's going to come along. I'm going to give them a call, but I always had in the back of my mind, with COVID-19 going on and all the lockdowns popping up, are they even going to be open? Long behold, I looked yesterday, phone line's down.
Oh.
Yeah. I've had to email them now. I've emailed them today. Sent them a message. As of yet, I have not received a response. Okay. I also emailed Ducky when it happened, which was about 4 days ago. And that really meant nothing, apparently. Ducky never responded. So that's a bit of a shame. Considering the price I paid, I would expect Ducky to at least try. I understand it's COVID-19, people are probably staying at home. But you're a PC shop. Work from home. I mean, my God, if there's one shop that works from home, you can do support for a PC shop, right? And this PC shop is doing it, but the fact that Ducky hasn't responded to me about my problem kind of annoyed me a little bit. Because you're paying a
Mm.
premium price for this product. And so that's my vent. I've sent an email. In fact, I said they haven't responded to the PC shop. They have now. I haven't read it yet. I literally just saw it as we were
Mm.
speaking. So I'm hoping that next week I can give you a positive update on what's
Hopefully,
going
yeah.
on with this Ducky Shine 7. Because, the keyboard really is fantastic. I mean, it's just
It
different.
really is. It really is.
But I don't want to be that one guy that has problems with it. I mean, it just
Oh
makes
yeah.
me feel sad.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, definitely not. It's not up to the standard, I think. To on Ducky not responding, I think that's actually a bit common. Like a lot of these, because Ducky's Taiwanese, and a
right.
lot of these Asian companies that actually do the production, they themselves don't have good contact points. I think actually for Ducky, it's either Reddit or I believe Twitter. I remember seeing on the mechanical keyboard subreddit that maybe there was someone from Ducky. I forget. Like they do some stuff with the community, so somewhere in their sub communities are easier to reach out, perhaps, or get some attention. For
Right.
Ducky specifically and keyboard manufacturers.
Okay. Well, look, I mean, it's not. Look, as long as my PC shop can sort it out, I don't care. I
Mm,
don't care who
mm.
does it. But when you pay $250 for the keyboard,
Yeah,
which to
yeah,
me is a very high price considering that it doesn't
it
come with
is.
anything fancy. Like it's not, it's a great keyboard. They've obviously put a lot of effort into making this, but it's not like, the keyboard's going to make me type faster or like, whatever. Like I can't come up with anything to say,
Yeah, yeah.
but you get my point. It doesn't
Yeah.
offer anything really special. It's
Mm.
it's just quality, but
Yeah.
it's still a very high price
Oh
for
yeah,
what it is. I
definitely.
mean, you showed your keyboard. Mine's sitting there, but I'm not going to bother picking it up because I'm so disappointed with it right now. I'm just going to look at it glaringly and hope it fixes itself. But it's nothing special. It's just a full size keyboard, nothing on top. It's just quality as hell.
Mm.
Apparently not mine, but yours is. And I'm hoping next week. Stay tuned. I will be giving an update on what happens on the next podcast, which will be next week, same day, same
Mm.
time. But with that, John, I think that's it. We've spent almost 2 hours on the podcast, and I think that is pretty darn good timing. I think it's going to give a lot of stuff for people to listen to. I would like to say before we are going to say our final words and head off for the day, John, if you are enjoying or you wanted to catch up on the last episode, or if you aren't always going to be able to be here to watch us live, but you'd like to catch up later on, we have made a YouTube channel. It's called
Mm.
Primal Raw. If you look up Primal Raw on YouTube, you're probably better off typing Primal Raw podcast, because right now when you type in Primal Raw, you're mostly going to get Beastmaster videos, which is
Oh
kind of
yeah.
kind of expected. But if you put in the Primal Raw podcast, you're going to find our channel. It's got that branding that you saw. You can see at the bottom of the screen right now. You'll see that photo. And it's literally just called Primal Raw. It's got one video at the moment, though there will be a secondary one coming up within 24 hours. And we are also planning to add extra content
Mm.
to that channel. I've still got to make an Earth Spirit guide, which I promised Jay Gushi. And I think you and me, we'll come up with some stuff to. We've been talking about making content for ages. It's about time we actually. I mean, we are right. We started the
Yeah.
podcast. We're getting there. But if you do enjoy and you want to support us, consider giving that a follow. We're also on Spotify. I put a link up on Twitter last week, and there'll be a new link up once you provide me with one for this
Mm.
episode as well. So if you want to follow us on Spotify as well, I don't know if you can follow on Spotify.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
you?
You
Okay,
can
you
follow
can.
the podcast there.
Right, okay, so if you want to follow us on that, follow us on that. John, I will give you the opportunity now because we are about to head off. Got any final things to say?
Um, Look, hopefully enough everyone is having a good time. Just stay indoors. Continue to enjoy those indoor pleasures that you do enjoy. Like watch Netflix if you want, watch some Dota 2, watch whatever. Just stay in, keep yourself safe, keep everyone around you safe. And again, if you haven't followed us, we're on Twitter. We have the YouTube channel Primal Roar. All our details are below our webcams at MLPDota, at John Xfair. If you're on Facebook, I am on Facebook as well, johnxfair.gaming. So go ahead and go
Wow.
to that. Mike's still setting his up. So at some point, he's going to be able to say that as well. Yeah, but that's it.
You know,
I think
I
that's
did
pretty much
promise
it.
I'd have it done by this week, but I still haven't taken that damn. I will take. You know what? I might take one today. I'm already here. The webcam's on. I may just take a photo like this and use that. That's the whole reason I haven't made it. I can't get a good photo. I'm not a very photogenic person. Okay, I'm not a born model, right? So we'll make it work. Anyway, do follow John. Do follow me on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever else. Consider giving the YouTube channel a follow because we do tend to grow it with content over time. Once we decide what we want to add, I was talking to John. John, I did say to you, might be a good time to put up some Half-Life Alex content because you obviously love the game, and I'm sure when you're ready, you'll get to that anyway, and
Mm, mm.
we'll give the appropriate links. But thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll give a quick shout out to everyone, in fact, because it's always good to recognize the people that joined us at the
Oh
start.
yeah, oh yeah.
I like to anyway. Unfortunately, of course, I have closed the chat like an idiot, John. So I don't have those people anymore. But by memory, there was Jay Gushy, Roto Retro, Mad Dog Muzzer, being Nick, did join us. And there was another guy, I can't say his full name, but it was something dragon. Well, I may as well say it.
Yeah,
Something dragon dildo. They shout out to you, sir. Thank you for following the stream. And I believe there's one more. Is there one more that I'm forgetting?
yeah. We had Marquis. We
Of
had
course, Marquis.
Tyrann.
How rude
Yeah.
of me. Marquis. Thank you, Marquis, for tuning in. And hopefully we'll see you guys again next time. Thanks for watching, guys.